Okay, so hello everyone and welcome to episode 4 of the BMS Performance podcast. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, little introduction to BMS. We are a leading specialist sales and marketing recruitment consultancy. We help businesses at all levels across the UK recruit for the sales team, and every week on the Recruitment Roundup podcast, I'll be bringing a new guest on where we'll be talking about the latest trends and topics, as well as providing insights, perspectives and opinion on everything to do with recruitment. So I'm incredibly excited for this episode today because it's a really pertinent subject. I'm joined by my colleague Fiona Jensen. So Fiona is involved in our marketing team, and delighted to have you on the podcast today, Fiona.
Thanks for having me on, Mike. I'm excited.
Good. Should be a great conversation. So by way of introductions, would you like to give the audience some background on yourself, how you got into recruitment in the first place, and what you do at BMS?
Sure, absolutely. So way back, I think almost 20 years ago now, I went into BMS for a sales interview as I was really keen and convinced that I wanted to sell tea bags for Tetley. And in that process, I met and got some wonderful feedback and a real sort of reframing as to what it was that I really wanted. And BMS seemed like a perfect vehicle to help me achieve that, and then I haven't really looked back since. So almost 20 years in recruitment now. Wow. I was lucky enough to uncover a real passion with regards to B2B marketing, and luckily for me, BMS decided to explore that as a division and set up their own B2B marketing recruitment division, and I've been very happily recruiting B2B marketers ever since, predominantly in the tech space in London and the South East. I haven't really looked back. They're a wonderful community, a great gang to work with, and it's really exciting to see what they can do and what they can achieve on behalf of businesses and companies out there in the tech sector.
Amazing. What an introduction. Cool. So the topic that we're going to talk about today is the impact that AI is having, has had, and will continue to have in the world of marketing recruitment. So AI is a topic that we hear a lot about at the moment. We've seen the explosion of ChatGPT only a few months ago, which has been invested in by Microsoft. We've got Google's version, which is called Bard, but ChatGPT seems to be the most established one, the most well-known one. But aside from that, we're hearing all the time, aren't we, about the impact of AI on our work lives, but also personal lives as well. So I guess where I wanted to kick this conversation off is to get your take on how AI is affecting and impacting the marketing world right now.
Absolutely. Well, marketers are a very resilient bunch, right? Because as far as as long as I've known marketers, they've always had a new technology, a new strategy, or a new challenge to face from a marketing perspective. I think it was one phrase that really hit me early on in my career helping marketers was the fact that marketing needs to run to stand still in the sector, because there is always something new happening and a new challenge that they need to overcome or address or understand. And I think this is just another one of those. AI is huge and massive, and I've done quite a bit of research and talked to an awful lot of my peers and community about it, how they're feeling about it, how it's impacting them, what they're excited about and what they're worried about or thinking about, should we say, moving forward. And that's both from a talent acquisition perspective, as in people who are trying to hire and bring great marketing talent into their business, as well as the marketeers themselves, who are obviously trying to incorporate it and leverage it as much as they can in their jobs, but also trying to understand how is it going to impact me when I'm job hunting, when I'm applying for positions. You know, what does this all mean? So I've really had to look at it. There was one particular thing that really struck me from the McKinsey Global Institute report, which was based around jobs lost and jobs gained and the impact of AI. And the report predicts that by 2030, as many as 375 million workers, that's 14% of the global workforce, may need to switch or retrain due to AI and automation.
Wow, that's a staggering statistic, isn't it?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. So you can imagine there was quite a sort of tunnel that I went down, or a little search that I did after that with regards to, well, what does that mean from a marketing perspective? What does it mean from talent acquisition? And there are some really great, insightful reports out there which talk about it, but it does make you wonder, what does it boil down to? Is the world going to change? Should we all fear for our jobs, or what does it actually mean with regards to that opportunity or the benefit or the leverage of that from the human aspect, not just with regards to career or work, but as you mentioned, from a personal perspective, your life perspective, what does it all mean? And there's huge value to be gained and pulled out of AI. ChatGPT, as you said, is a fantastic example of exactly that. But I think with the speed at which marketing adopted it, for all the benefits and all the leverage and the run faster opportunity that it really delivers, there are also real sort of examples and challenges with that type of technology as well, which reassures and sort of guarantees that human element will always have to and will remain in any kind of process, because the machine is like a calculator for words, but you wouldn't necessarily trust a calculator to tell you what your future holds or how you can best leverage that information. So there's limits to it, as well as huge upside with regards to marketing itself.
What sort of jobs do we think might be most impacted then by AI? That 375 million is a big statistic, and anyone that's listening to it that hasn't quite done the depth of research that you might have done, that would be the first question I would have in my mind. Like, what sort of jobs is it going to be?
Absolutely. Well, there's 4 sort of clear contenders really that are going to be affected by it. We're not going to say replaced or, having to sort of reskill for these in particular, but these are going to be impacted the most initially. So we've got content. Content is words basically on behalf of a company, a brand, a person. So anyone who is putting words into action will be able to leverage or be impacted by this technology. You then have research. So research, again, from a marketing perspective, everything's researched. Everything needs to be understood before you go to market. Who are your customers? What are they solving as a problem? What insights and data information is there? Who your competitors are? All of this is research, but you can take that right the way through to the science, the medical, and the behavioral sciences world as well. So all of that will be able to leverage or be affected by this. And then you've got data. So research often spits out data, you collect data, we're all data points in the world. And again, this is where this type of technology can really add huge benefit and huge potential with regards to collating, collecting, understanding, translating, and then drawing insights from that information. And what used to be maybe a data scientist's role, which is all of those things. So, understanding, going out, finding the data, collating it, analysing it, translating it to, the likes of you and me who don't spend days looking at data. What does it mean? What can we draw from this? All of that could potentially be done by this type of technology. So those are the sort of 3-4 main areas that I think are going to be most affected. From my understanding, AI is really a great way to free the human up and take them away from the most repetitive tasks, and also the most sort of time, the ones that sort of draw the most time, the research, for example. It used to take you days, weeks, if not, months in order to go out and actually find the information, extract it, analyze it, and understand, is this what I'm looking for? Whereas now, actually, with this sort of tool, you can collate that, you can find the reports, you can get it to look or recommend sources for you within seconds. So it's a ridiculously useful tool, but those are the sort of skill sets and areas that I think are going to be most affected by AI.
Yeah, saving businesses so much time though, isn't it, as well?
Well,
Streamlining
that's the
so
thing.
many processes.
Absolutely. It's speed. That's the main opportunity, is speeding things up, helping people to understand as well. I've seen an awful lot of, students within the sort of university and education sector who are literally, asking it, explain this report to a 6-year-old. I watched another post the other day on the SVB bank's decline over the weekend, and somebody had leveraged ChatGPT, or I think it might have been Bing actually, but they leveraged one of them and said, explain the SVB bank situation with monkeys and bananas, and off it went, and it was fantastic. But what a great way to be able to really get your head around really difficult subjects. So there's a lot of opportunity in that, but those are the sort of key areas, I think.
When you talk about school children now and homework, I just wonder how many school children are asking ChatGPT to do the homework for them.
Well, I have a certain 10-year-old, Mike, who loves ChatGPT. Can't imagine why. But unfortunately, there are big brains out in the world who are already coming up with solutions around that. So they've actually got tools out there now where you can assess whether it's been written by an AI tool, and it gives you the percentage rate of how likely it is that it's been leveraged. So yes, there's always a yin to the yang, I think, in my experience, if you look for it.
I was doing some of my own research, and I saw an article that said there's a new version of ChatGPT coming out, and it's actually going to be multimodal, which means that it can generate as well as text, images, and video as well. And
absolutely,
that's imminent, which gives you an indication about quick it's evolving, given that it felt like for us it only really came on the scene a couple of months back. So I think if I'm a business leader, CMO, marketing director, I've got to be thinking, how is this going to affect my team in the future, and what might that future look like? It'd be great to delve into that a bit.
Absolutely, yeah. So there's huge opportunity with this new latest model that's coming out. Some of the easiest ways to look at it from a recruitment perspective, as that's what I deal with on a day-to-day basis, is, for example, you could use it for resume screening. So you can put your job description into the platform and then add in the candidate CV and ask it what sort of match there is. So if you're hiring for a head of marketing or a CMO for the first time and you're not sure what you're looking at, AI can actually help you, and then you can ask it how confident it is with that match on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being an absolute A to A match, 1 being not a great match at all. How confident are you in your estimation of this candidate? So you can definitely leverage it from that perspective. And then if we go into the interview side of things, so there are really smart tools like Otter, for example. That's an app that you can have on your phone or on your screen, and that will actually transcribe interviews for you, leveraging AI. So it'll write it all out, and then what you can do is leverage, again, something like ChatGPT in its new model when it's coming out, which will then be able to summarize that for you. So if you've got multiple interview stages with lots of different stakeholders, and time is short, and you want to progress candidates through interview processes more quickly and efficiently, which we definitely recommend, then you can leverage this type of technology to really, say, for example, the final interview processes with the CMO, and he wants to know, or she wants to know, what the other 4 or 5 interviews contained and how they were and what the summaries are. That can all be delivered to that final interviewer very efficiently and effectively, through this type of technology. The images is interesting from a marketer's perspective, because often they're having to outsource that through designers, agencies, or Canva if they're feeling creative themselves. There's lots of amazing tools out there, but again, it could be very time efficient because it will remember the conversation and the subject matter that it's working with. So there's a huge upside with regards to that particular skill set as well. The good stuff with regards to this type of leveraging AI within recruitment processes is the fact that it can improve efficiency, as we've talked about, but it can also reduce bias. So
Right.
we've found through research that there are certain words, there's job descriptions out there or adverts out there which would not necessarily encourage the most diverse or inclusive applications that you'd hopefully be looking for as a company or as a business. So you can leverage this type of tool to really annihilate that and set yourself in a better position to try and encourage a better mix of applications, and also to remove that bias from the internal process or hiring, the sort of recruitment that's maybe not led to that diversification that you're looking for within your pool of talent.
Yeah. Okay. It's interesting. And I guess, if I'm in the position of an employer, an internal talent team, using this could have an impact on my time to hire, because I'm able to get through that front end of the process much quicker without having to do the repetitive mundane task myself of going through every CV. There could be some challenges and drawbacks to that, which we can come on to in a bit. But how can recruiters, internal talent teams, hiring managers leverage AI to attract more candidates? Because we've talked then about once the in process and optimizing the CV screening, etc. But in terms of getting more candidates in, how can it help with that?
Well, it could enable you to research where those talent pools are or what they tend to look for. So a lot of the conversations that I have with companies, especially when they're a bit frustrated with the fact that they're not seeing the sort of marketers or talent that they're ideally looking for, is, what's wrong with us? Why aren't the right people applying? Why can't we find them? And often, you find that's maybe due to salary, maybe some of the wording with regards to the advert or the job description, or maybe you're just not offering what the talent and the sort of marketers are ideally looking for. I think from my own perspective, my experience with marketers is the fact that they're always the best marketers, should we say, are always looking for a really good balance, right? They want to earn more, but they also want to learn more, because marketing is not a role that you're ever in charge of. You're constantly, as I said, sort of running to keep up with what's happening. But in order to do that, you need a company that's willing to invest or willing to give you the headroom or the opportunity to really expand your skills. So you often find if marketers are looking, they're more interested in that opportunity to learn, because they know in the end, if they learn enough, they will be earning an awful lot more than they are now. So I think with regards to companies leveraging AI, you can do that research yourself. Historically, you could have one conversation with a recruiter, and depending on the amount of experience that person would have, maybe you'll trust it, maybe you won't. But now there's opportunity for you to actually do that research very quickly and efficiently yourself with regards to what are these people looking for. It also would help with regards to the data side of things. So with regards to salary, how do you compare with what's out there? How do you compare with that sort of skill set in the market? There's LinkedIn Insights, there's a huge amount of data and information out there, but it can be difficult as a hiring manager or talent acquisition who doesn't necessarily specialize in marketing, know where to go. So again, it could enable you and help you with that.
I read as well that there's AI that can analyze a candidate's profile, be their education as well as their work history. Similar to what LinkedIn does at the moment, it recommends suitable jobs for you that it thinks you're going to be interested in. But then it can feed that back into the employer so that they can take a more targeted approach to candidates. And if they're approaching candidates that the AI said this person is likely to be interested in you, then they're more likely to be able to engage the candidate as well. Chatbots as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's again, AI is sort of can sometimes be seen as the sort of all-seeing guy, but the the usage of it, it's well, all-seeing eye, or maybe the eye of Sauron if you're feeling a bit negative towards AI and feeling a bit freaked out by the new tech. But it can be, very useful with regards to, behavioral science, as we touched on earlier, bringing that into a process. How are people interacting with the company? What sort of questions are they asking? And again, this can be leveraged from a candidate's perspective as well as a company's perspective. Everything that we're saying with regards to how, hiring managers can leverage it. Again, candidates can do exactly the same and benefit hugely from its advice. But I think the main thing with regards to it is the fact that it can sort of 10x productivity. It can 10x how many candidates you can review, consider, reach, communicate with. I watched a TikTok the other day, Mike, where they'd done a Google Sheets extension with ChatGPT, and they were literally saying they were a product marketer looking for a new role, and they really wanted to get into clean tech, right? So they said, right, ChatGPT, give me the top 10 clean tech in the UK. And it gave them, they moved that into the Google Sheets. Then it said, right, who are the CEOs of these companies? Right, moved that into the sheet. Then it said, what do these guys care about? How quickly are they recruiting? And again, ChatGPT delivered loads of information. And then the person sort of admitted, I really want to get into the market, but I don't know a huge amount about it. So ChatGPT, can you recommend, a coffee chat question for each one of these CEOs? And off it went, and it did it, because it can access the websites, the research, the insights, all the community information out there. It's you can use it from a really smart human perspective, and you can really leverage it. But it's only as good as the input and the questions and the strategy behind its usage. So it's always sort of interesting. You sort of see how other people are using it. You think, oh, that's amazing. And then you try and use it yourself, and you're like, I need to learn how to think this way and leverage it from that perspective.
Yeah, it's interesting you touched in there on how candidates can prepare even for interviews as well. But where sort of my thought process is going as well is it can enhance the candidate experience as well, particularly with the chatbot, by 24/7 contact and help them feel more involved as well, more communicated with. Going back to what you said when you were talking about AI that can analyze video interviews and record transcripts, that's a lot of more companies now are incorporating recorded video interview into their recruitment process. I guess one of the main benefits of that is surely it's going to speed up the feedback process as well, isn't it? The AI is recording the interview, then feeding it straight back into the hiring manager. So
yeah, absolutely. So there's all the benefits of leveraging that. And I think, companies like Pepsi, I think, have been doing sort of video interviews from a first interview perspective for quite a long time. Now you can imagine them, immediately embracing AI and getting those transcripts and the chatbots going because of the volume of people that they're dealing with. But with that, there's always that, the human experience that you're sort of reminded of, and all the benefits of having a chatbot that can interact with the candidate who decides that they want to apply at 10 o'clock at night, for example, and isn't sure, if their resume is uploaded. That's brilliant, right? But also from a candidate's perspective, they do still want to work for and with humans. So you've got to be considering, when you bring that human element in, and how much of that benefit of AI you can leverage before you start losing, really great talent who's kind of switched off by the fact that, I just want to talk to somebody about, I get it with customer service, whichever company I'm calling, within 30 seconds when they ask me to press 5, I'm sort of losing the plot. Like, I just want a human sort of quick question.
Is that lack of human touch? There's a balance, isn't there? Like you're keeping a nice balance to this whole conversation. But if I'm listening to this, I think we've done a good job in talking about AI and all the benefits to it. We haven't honed in on the challenges, and there's definitely ethical considerations going on around AI. Particularly, you mentioned before, bias and discrimination in regards to the job ads that it populates and it creates. But what challenges have you experienced or learned about, and also what challenges do you foresee in the future with it as well?
The limitations, it's limited to the written word. And the written word, if you're talking about, a McKinsey Global Insights report or a scientific or a doctor's insight with regards to a specific skill set or topic, or a SaaS company talking about the technological benefit of leveraging its software in your business process, then you can trust and believe every word of it. The challenge you've got with AI word model technology is the fact that it is everything in one bucket, and that is what it's drawing its information from. And unfortunately, a lot of that is, social chit chat with people who aren't necessarily specialists in the field. Well, our conversation, Mike, is no doubt going to be transcribed and added into the pot, and I certainly wouldn't put myself forward as an AI specialist, and I would be, having a panic attack if people were trying to, create massive insights based on this, conversation, because I'm not a specialist in it. So that's some of the stuff that you need to consider is it's all information that it's taking, all the, silly, humorous, fun. Can it really tell the difference? Probably not. So it's taking every word that's out there and then feeding that back to you. So you can't necessarily trust everything that it tells you and it gives you. You can definitely use it as a tool, but there's that trust factor that I think is going to create a problem. And as we already spoke about with regards to students and degrees and dissertations, who wouldn't want to leverage the technology? But on the flip side, how is that fair compared to everybody else who is literally sat there for months and years working on their dissertations? So there's a real sort of question, I suppose, with regards to that trust and where that information's come from and what it's based on. And again, I think it's going to come down to the prompts and the intelligence of the people and what they're trying to achieve with the tool. But that is definitely a limitation and something that I'd want people to really think about, especially if they're a tech company and they're looking to hire their first marketer. Absolutely hop into ChatGPT and say, write me a job description for a CMO. But if they were to talk to me about that job description, I would probably rip it apart. I'd say this bit's good, this bit no, that bit no. You need to talk about this, you need to think about this, and you need to question this, because it would be written from a whole pile of information which wouldn't necessarily really relate to that one particular business and the challenge that they're trying to solve. So you've got that. Then, as we've mentioned, the human element is missing. So it's like the gut instinct. It's that human behaviors. It's how they're interacting, how they're looking at you. The small tells, the enthusiasm, the passion. How are you going to be able to assess that and really understand it? You won't be able to. So that will always be a challenge. And again, that is the human element. That's hopefully what we're freeing people up to do, to spend more time talking and enjoying and thinking and creating and connecting and finding new ways of leveraging the tool. But on the flip side, it is not sentient. It is not human. I've tested it. I've asked it some difficult questions, and it was one of the first things it says is, I am an AI and I'm based on words. You can't trust my, advice, and we'd strongly recommend you seek, a professional. If you're looking for career advice, for example, I wouldn't necessarily trust it, but There's the opportunity to leverage it with regards to creating ideas or having a plan, but you can't replace knowledge and experience really with the tool. And it is that human element that you can't. And then I think there was one other point that it's that emotional intelligence, I suppose, and that interpersonal skills. So from a recruiter's perspective, recruiting, if you're a company trying to hire great talent, if you're a candidate looking for a great new job or a home or a company that you're going to, put your weight behind and try and help grow, you need to build a relationship with somebody, and that's not going to happen through AI, because it is lacking that emotional intelligence. It can't see, the eyebrow raise. It can't see, the wry smirk or the glint or the twinkle in the eye. It can't tell these things. So again, there's that concern from that experience perspective, both from an interviewer and hiring manager. You can definitely leverage it from a volume perspective, but the sooner you're sort of talking to a human better, the better, with regards to that interaction and building that relationship, whether that's with your customers or your candidates or your hiring managers or anybody really. It's the personal relationship that really creates that opportunity from both perspectives.
Yeah, and I guess it's technology, isn't it? So it's subject to errors, technical glitches. I was on it last night and it said network down. It could do that. No. Yeah, it is. You put it really, really well there. And I guess to wrap up for you, because I've loved this podcast and it's been great, really thought provoking. I've really enjoyed it. What final thoughts, ideas would you want to leave the audience with?
Well, I think from my perspective, I'm excited to see what marketers are going to do with it. Like I said, I've always been impressed with their innovation, creativity, and also how much they get done with so little. They're often a small marketing team with a little budget, and yet they're fully responsible for 50, 60, 70% of a company's revenue. It's fantastic what they can do. So I'm excited to see what happens there with regards to how they leverage it, the other ideas, the other tools that are developed in order to help them as well. So there's an awful lot of technology companies at the moment that are running at full pelt with this tech. So you've got HubSpot have just brought out a new update, so you can leverage AI within their whole marketing automation system, which is going to be magic. You've got Salesforce, which are bringing out their version of it, incorporated into their CRM system, which again I think will really help marketers with regards to helping sales to drive more business for their companies. And then, if you're looking at it from an ATS perspective, with regards to recruitment, talent acquisition, as you mentioned, are going to be able to, chatbot people at 10 o'clock at night who are struggling to get their resumes into a system. Recruiters are going to be able to be all things to all people with an awful lot more communication and better communication moving forward. And, we're really going to be able to leverage the sort of productivity and the speed to market, which I think is going to be fantastic, both from a hiring perspective, because often when companies are talking to us, they've got a real problem that they need us to solve as quickly as possible. So being able to 10x that is going to be amazing from our perspective. And also, I think with regards to the sort of future, I think I'm excited to see how the humans leverage this technology for us all, for the betterment of us all. Technology is one of those exciting places. Marketeers are the most innovative type of people and personalities to work with. But, from my sort of short stint at looking at AI in the industry, I'm so excited to see what they do. I can't imagine the benefits that there must be, from a sales perspective, engineering, science perspective, even the creative arts, music. I just think it's going to be phenomenal. So I'm excited to see what the future holds. But I think we're all going to have to hang on for dear life and try and embrace as much of it as we can as we go.
Yeah, embracement is the key word, isn't it? But it is exciting, and thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been great to have you on.
My pleasure. Thanks ever so much for inviting me. I've enjoyed it.
Great. So next week we will be having Kate Peel join the show. She'll be talking everything graduate recruitment, and especially around when the best time is to bring a graduate into the business. So thank you everyone for listening. And please give us a follow, give us a rating. We're trying to grow our audience. So any feedback, any follows, any ratings really help us with that. And thank you all for listening. I'll see you again next week.